action during the Cultural Revolution. My first trip to mainland China, in December 1978, coincided with a major shift in the geopolitical landscape. I was escorting a small group of Americans, members of the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations, on a 3-week tour of several cities, starting in the north and ending in the south. On our final day, during a visit to the Huadong commune on the outskirts of Guangzhou, I tuned in to Voice of America on my shortwave radio and listened to President Carter announcing that the PRC and the United States would establish full diplomatic relations. Our Chinese hosts were thrilled by the news, and considerable toasting and drinking followed. Normalization, as it was called, ushered in a hopeful new era in Sino-American relations. Now that the People's Republic was opening up to Americans, I accepted an offer from the Yale-China Association, directed by John Starr, to represent its programs in Hong Kong and China. My wife Ellen and I arrived with our 2 young sons, Brian and Colin, at New Asia College at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, CUHK, in the summer of 1981, our home base for the next 3 years. Everyone was concerned about Hong Kong's transition from British control to Chinese sovereignty, scheduled for 1997, but with the Sino-British Joint Declaration signed in December 1984, Beijing assured the world that it would be a smooth process. The city, while not a full-fledged democracy, had a strong legal and judicial system, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press, rights that were absent on the other side of the border. Under a policy of one country, 2 systems, Beijing would assume responsibility for foreign affairs and defense, but Hong Kong could maintain its own way of life as a special autonomous region for at least 50 years after the handover in 1997. In addition to teaching and managing various projects at CUHK, I was responsible for overseeing Yale China's programs with Xiangya Medical School in Changsha and with Huazhong University and Wuhan University in Wuhan, relationships that had been restored after a 30-year absence. On one occasion, some of the young Americans teaching English in Wuhan were accused of being spies. I quickly went there to meet with our Chinese colleagues, who soon put an end to the harassment. It was a distressing experience for the Yale China teaching fellows, and was a potent reminder that suspicion of the United States still ran deep. It also drove home the fact that the success of any American venture depended on having supportive Chinese partners. In 1984, my family and I moved from Hong Kong to New York, where I joined the staff of the Henry Luce Foundation. Founded by Henry R. Luce, publisher of Time and Life magazines, who was born to missionary parents in China, it was chaired by his son, Henry Luce III, and led by Robert Armstrong. The Foundation's Asia program supported the creation of resources, language teaching, library materials, fellowships, faculty positions, policy studies, cooperative research, and cultural and scholarly exchange to increase America's capacity for understanding East and Southeast Asia. Much of my work centered on building cultural and scholarly ties between the United States and China. In addition to trips to the PRC, my travels also took me to Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, the Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, and North Korea. Of these journeys, the most unforgettable was a trip in the spring of 1989 to review some of the Luce Foundation's grants. I flew from Hong Kong to Beijing on May 29, and after checking into my hotel, took a taxi to Tiananmen Square, where thousands of students had been protesting against the Chinese government for weeks. Red banners with university names were stretched above their tents, and after finishing evening meals they were lounging about playing cards, writing in their diaries, talking with passers-by. A few of them asked me, "What do the people of America think about what we are doing? Are you allowed to have protests in America? Do you think we can succeed?" Loudspeakers broadcast a steady stream of statements from the protest leaders.